Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I'm not sure if this is worth a green text or not, but I'm going to say it is. Christmas Eve. Come home drunk from the pub. Can't really remember getting home. Browse the interwebs. Find a couple looking for friends on a kinda ad. Think like a Craigslist listing who live about 50 miles away. Message them because I'm drunk and dumb. Message right back. We hit it off. Message back and forth for months. One day they just stopped messaging me. Not sure why, because everything has been really cool up until this point, even if we have kept it semi-anonymous. We planned to meet in the near future. We shared things about our lives while remaining that semi-anonymous, etc., so I can't understand it. It's now been a week or two since I heard from them, and I'm worried something might be up. Decide to drive to their house. Find it easy enough. Door is open. House, actually an upstairs flat, is nicely lit up and nice and clean. Bigger than it looks from the outside, too. Clearly hear Peter give it back, like in a jokey way. Take my shoes off and go upstairs to join them. Walk in the living room and ask them if I can play too. They look real sheepish, like they've been caught in a lie. Tell them I dropped by, that is, I drove 50 miles out of my way, to see how they were because I hadn't heard from them. They're fine. They're just both under the weather. Peter compliments my coat. Thank him and tell him it's my school shooter coat, except it isn't leather, haha. Doesn't go down well. They seem friendly with me but on edge, and my coat remark hasn't helped things. Not even sure why I'm wearing a coat like this. It's like an overcoat because I'd never usually wear one. Peter asks me how I got there. I drove. We all think this is hilarious for some reason. Clarifies. I mean, how did you know where we live? Now they look worried. Well, because memory goes completely blank. I just knew as if I'd been there before because Laura. Nope, still can't get it. Sort of just wave it off. We sit around a while longer, but in a sort of triangle, like no one is sitting next to one another. Get up and try to sit next to Laura. Stops me. Don't get too close, we're sick. Sit back down. Both start looking at me. You know, Anon, you don't look too good yourself. Hope I'm not catching the same shit they have. Do feel groggy, though. Hold on. How do you know my name? Look at each other. We were going to ask you the same thing. At this point, I became aware that despite sharing a lot, we never gave out our names, and the things we did share about our lives were really vague. What did you do to your head, Anon? Touch my head. Hurts. Blood on my hand. I can't remember. Hear children crying in another room. You should probably leave. Everything goes black. Open my eyes. 2 friends are trying to rouse me outside the pub. Some asshole dabbed me on the back of the head and I banged like the side or front of my head on this little wall there. Assure them I'm fine. Can't stop thinking about Laura and Peter because it felt so real. Months of life lived in less than 5 minutes. You know, like those dreams where you're sure they happened. Not even that drunk, and that knock to the head has sobered me up even more. Albeit I probably do have a concussion. Friends walk me home anyway. Browse the interwebs. Never do any kind of internet friends thing. Don't even have any kind of social media. But I'm curious. See this ad listing like the Craigslist kind. It's a couple, new to the semi-local area, looking for a friend. Send them a simple message. Is this Laura and Peter? Get a reply back. Is this Anon? Sorry we haven't been in touch. I lost my phone and my old messages, LOL. Obviously wasn't me who messaged them earlier, but someone with the same name. Don't reply to it.
This one will be short. Be me. 23. Walking around New Orleans, just getting lost in a new place. See a guy in a wheelchair across the street. I wonder how he got there. None of my business. Keep walking. Don't even break stride. As I'm walking away, about 100 feet away, he starts howling. He's now stuck in the middle of the street trying to get help in crossing. Go help him. Ask why he howled? She just told me to. There was nobody else around, just me and him on the block.
Adventures on a rural farm. Family-owned acreage in the rural Midwest. Farm was sold to my grandfather after a long chain of another family passing it down. They had a cemetery with generations of their kinfolk laying on the grounds. My grandfather literally tore up the headstones and relocated them for the farmhouse. Grandpa died before he could ever live there. Grandma would never go near the place. My folks took up residence to tend the farm. You know how some families are just sick or damaged in a way that's hard to pin down. That's what I grew up with. Father was always violent. Mom had an addictive personality. Everything is always in a state of disrepair. I think you could write this off, but I had some recurring paranormal experiences there. Be Me 8. Hear a baby crying at the edge of the woods. Wander over, crying stops. Look down and see the headstone of a newborn. That's how I discovered the stones, actually. Be Me 14. Playing with my first phone to have a camera. Take a selfie before selfies are a thing. I am 100% alone at home. Have to awkwardly take a picture because there is no front-facing camera. Flip phone around. See the blurred outline of a woman behind me in a white dress. My mom never wore a dress in her life. I showed the photo to several friends and asked them to describe what they saw. They all asked who the lady in the white dress was. Lastly, the worst sleep paralysis demons I've had came in that house. Hag used to whisper in the doorway for me to look at her. She could take up my friends' and family's voices to try and trick me into it. She would crawl on top of me to make me stare into the black, wet sockets where her eyes were and scream at me with putrid breath. The hag followed me for a bit, but when we left that house, she left. My parents also got their shot together too, almost instantly. The only person who doesn't have a thing in their life together is my sister, and you guessed it, she lives on the old farm.
Guys, I was just reading through these and had a memory. Need to audio dictate to make sure if it is actually something odd or not. Be Me on a study abroad last semester in post-Soviet country. I don't want to be too specific, but the main language is not Russian. Got super drunk with some of my classmates at some club in the old town of the city. My phone is dead, so the classmate I'm with calls a ride and has my stop, or what I told him my stop was, turned out to just be in the general area, put in after his. The driver takes us to his stop fine. Now I'm there in the car by myself, pissed drunk at 3 a.m. Guy pulls up to some random spot in the outskirts and residential part of the city. It was probably like half a mile from where I lived. I just wasn't familiar with the area. Too stupid to ask him to try and go somewhere else. Think I can find my way on my own, walk around for maybe 20 minutes. Absolutely no one on the streets. I mean, no one. No cars, no people, absolutely dead. I came to the realization that I am kind of genuinely screwed if I can't find my way home. I don't speak the native language well, and my Russian is not great. Keep walking around, walking. Eventually, I ran across this little old lady in what I remember to be like a black sort of robe type of dress. Not weird, just your regular babushka attire. She, for whatever reason, is just walking around the completely dead city at about 3 or 4 a.m. I go up to her and ask her if she knows where my street is. I am still blasted, so I have no idea how my broken Russian and slurred speech was understood. I think she knew where it was, but it was too far away. In fact, thinking about it now, I don't know how I conducted a conversation with this lady because 100% I could not at the time hold a conversation in Russian, much less in a situation like this. She ends up walking me around and helps me hail this cab that comes by. The only car I've seen on the road after my own cab dropped me off. Anyways, the cab takes me home and I slip him some money. Puke my guts out in the bathroom. Anyways, all's well that ends well. But my question is, how did this situation end up so fortuitously? Was that little lady some sort of protector or what? Or was she just some crazy babushka walking around at 3 a.m.? Thanks for reading, Anons.
Probably your guardian or something. Sounds similar to a story that happened recently to a friend of the family. Friend helping his cousin paint a house. He is pretty old, like 60s. His cousin has to take a bathroom break, so he goes into the backyard and finds a bush. When he gets back, he sees the friend just standing there looking off into the distance. Ask him if he's okay. Friend dreamily responds yes. Cousin isn't buying it and tells my friend that they need to go sit in the van and rest for a bit. Cousin tries to get him to the van, but he can't walk and he is basically dragging him over. They get to the door of the van and the cousin is wondering how the hell he's going to get him in. Now they haven't seen a person all day. Dead-end street, not a busy area. Suddenly a man appears around the van and asks, "Need help getting him in?" Cousin says yes, and they get him inside. After a few minutes, they are off to the hospital. Turns out he had a massive stroke, and all blood was cut off to one side of his brain. Everything was okay in the end. It's been over a year now. He is seemingly 100% normal. The doctors were amazed at his quick recovery. Your story reminded me of his. Had to be a guardian or something. The timing was just too perfect.
My time to shine. Be me. 17. My Uncle Steve is in town, staying with some of my cousins as he was looking for a place nearby after splitting with his wife. One morning I come out of my room and see he's in my kitchen. He was over at my parents' place last night. I thought he'd left something there since I know for a fact he left it around 11:30-ish last night. He says to me, "Morning, kid, how you doing?" We chit-chat for about 45 minutes before he leaves, telling me he'll be around. About 2 days later, Mom gets a call. My uncle died earlier 2 days ago. According to her, he'd had a heart attack in the early morning hours. After doing the math of the time, I realized he'd already died by the time I saw him in my house. TLDR. I had a 45-minute talk with my uncle 45 minutes after he'd already died. I think the timing of it, though, is all total coincidence.
Until recently, I worked third shift 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. in a small factory before getting moved today. Won't get into what we make as it isn't relevant and is a specific enough industry that someone involved in it might be able to identify the location and me. But suffice to say that we make widgets, tens of thousands of them a day. The building is very old, at least from the 40s if not older. The original company that built it got bought out by a multinational widget corporation that you've almost certainly heard of about 20 years ago and made a lot of renovations. But the main part of the factory is the original building with a coat of paint. As an operator, there is constant white noise always around. Even with ear protection, the noise is so loud it can drown out your thoughts. Combine this with other machines, dust collection system, HVAC, fans, and awful 70s to 90s top 40 music playing over the sound system to keep the non-operators entertained, and you just get a whooshing cacophony of background noise. I'm convinced that this kind of white noise for 8 to 12 hours every day can make you start to lose it after a while. Interesting things can happen now and then that break up the monotony of a shift, like a stray cat wandering in through the shipping doors and running around the building, or workers having a near-nervous breakdown on the floor. Honestly, those are more welcome than not as it gets unbelievably boring. But sometimes you see or hear things that make you go, "What the hell?" Be me working overtime around 1 a.m. Work backed up because an operator at my machine on another shift has been ill for the last week and we need to catch up. The only people in the entire building are myself and a supervisor, maybe a security guy near the entrance, though I've never seen one. His little foreman's office is at the opposite end of the floor, and I can see him from my station through the window sitting at his computer. At my machine, loud as hell like always. Clearly hear two male voices pass between me and the concrete wall behind me. Sounds like they're having a normal conversation while walking along the aisle behind. Can't make out anything they're saying, though nothing unusual about that. Hear them on my left, pass behind, and then on the right like they're casually walking past. Turn around and there's nobody, with a clear view from one wall of the building to the other. Probably 100 feet end to end. I check and the supervisor is still sitting in his office. Later he says we should be the only people there. Kind of thing happens regularly, but I can usually rationalize it away because other people are around and acoustics can make things sound closer than they are.
All that white noise around you, coming from different directions, can produce some very odd interference patterns that can produce pockets of sound that sound like muffled voices, a percussion beat, and so on. Then when you go toward where it sounds like, it vanishes. I've had this happen to me with an AC unit in a window to the right of me and a loud laptop fan in front of me. Heard what sounded like music coming out of a pair of headphones hanging up off to my left. I lean toward the headphones to see what the hell is playing, and it vanishes. Took me several times to realize WTF was happening. But yeah, sound wave interference can be weird. GIS wave interference to see how they add up or cancel out to produce odd patterns.
The strangest by far, though, was this. Be me working on December 31st, literally everyone else on my shift. 7 people at its smallest. Took a half day because they'll lose vacation time that won't roll over to January 1st. Even the supervisor left early, left the foreman in charge, walking back from a smoke break onto an empty factory floor. Lame 90s alt-rock playing over the speakers because whoever made the music playlist is an 80s kid. The same songs play almost every day and sometimes multiple times a day. Not really relevant to the story, but it drives me crazy. The floor is eerily quiet, so the music is kind of echoing in a lonely, liminal spaces kind of way. Walking from the door toward my machine when I hear loud footsteps. Doesn't even sound real to my ears, but like a pre-recorded sound effect. I wonder if it's something in the song that's playing. See something white moving in the corner of my eye. Turn and see what looks like 2 white disembodied shoes walking down the aisle to my right. Almost looks like they're marching. The cadence of the step is so exaggerated. Too utterly confused and probably sleep-deprived to really react to it. Just watch blankly. The shoes walk behind one of the giant machines on the floor and the footstep sounds fade away within 2 to 3 seconds. Stand there for probably a minute straight trying to process what the hell just happened. Walk around the machine to look and of course there's nothing there. Spend the last hour and a half of my shift paranoid as hell. Punched out 15 minutes before I was supposed to because I couldn't take it anymore.
Very old building from the 40s. You Americans are weird. If you talk about very old buildings in Germany, it means something like 300 to 800 years old.
Okay, I have one. Be 8-year-old me and 6-year-old brother. We just moved into my family's newly built house. We sleep in the same room. Few weeks after moving in, I started getting these weird dreams of cats scratching me. Wake up with scratch marks all over my back. Bro wakes up with a bruise on his forehead. Mom thinks we fought one another. I told her about the weird cat dreams, and my brother said it was that big man who visits in the night. She still thinks we are bluffing and forces me to sleep in a spare room. Bro ends up getting a mark on his face as if someone slapped him. It was that big man again. Mom gets a Catholic priest to bless the room. Weird scratching and bruises stop. Big man never shows up. Fast forward a year or so, and we both end up with bruises again, but this time it was due to a fight we had.
I think I heard something. Take headphones off. Sounds like a young woman crying outside. Turn off lights to look through blinds. Crying stops. See nothing. Continues about 2 minutes later. Stops again shortly after. I wish I was joking, but that was creepy just now, and yes, all my doors are locked and my gun is loaded.
Go outside and check just to be sure, Anon.
It's worth noting some other things, so now I'm a bit paranoid of a potential robber. I often leave the sliding glass door cracked open with the screen locked for a dog to look outside. My dog will often wake me up at 5 a.m. and begged me to do this. 5 a.m. dog wakes me up, decide not to open the door, 'cause spiders keep sneaking in. 7 a.m. just before full sunrise, walk dog while it's cool and foggy out. At the end of my backyard turnaround. There's a very tall head-shaped imprint on the glass door, like somebody was standing against it trying to peer inside, and they were doing that long enough for the condensation to build up into drips from where the mouth would be. Stop opening the door before it lights out after that. And my screen door needs a lot of force and squeaks when it opens, but it has a lock. 2 days ago, the glass door cracked while cooking dinner. Go to other room to eat and forget it's gotten dark. Screen door squeaks like somebody tried to open it. The dog is right next to me. Obviously, I never really open the sliding door anymore. A few months ago, my dog did that creepy-ass thing where they inexplicably growl and get scared by nothing, and he was looking in my unlit bedroom doorway. What the hell is that man?
I've had similar things happen, just infrequently enough to doubt my sanity. Last house on Dead End Road, edge of town. Last winter, my wife found footprints coming from the field leading to the back door. Snows overnight while I'm at work, covered by the time I get home. A few nights later, she hears someone messing with the back door. More footprints. Doesn't happen when I'm home, probably because of a car in the driveway. A few weeks later, I heard it, grabbed a rifle and went outside. Nobody around. Next night, hear it again. Wait in the living room with a gun, lights off. Hear shouting in the distance, followed by a handgun going off. Stops for weeks. talked to neighbors down the street. They say their dogs have been going crazy in the middle of the night. Fast forward to 3 days ago. My wife wakes me up in the middle of the night because someone is messing with the door. Go outside with a rifle. Whoever it is gone. I put a trail camera in a shrub facing the back door. Gonna get that asshole's picture. Maybe you should do something similar and consider carrying your gun with you from room to room.
Watch out, man. It's good that you have protection from living entities, but I would also recommend getting a priest to bless the house in case it's spiritual. Are you familiar with the Hinterkaifeck murders? Sounds very similar to what's happening here. Make sure you always have protection and keep your eyes open.
Not really used to this kind of thing, but here's my story. Be me. Probably around 8 years old, living in a house with just my mom and my little sister. Just watching TV, normal kid shit. I hear a bang on the door, and then my sister crying. Freak out and immediately run over there to see if she's okay. She says that she saw a woman who wasn't mom. I think that she was probably just seeing things, but check behind the door to put her mind at ease. Open the door with just a crack. I see a woman with black hair wearing a gown of some kind. She looked unnaturally pale, like a corpse or something. She turns around and peeks through the gap in the door. Hell no. Immediately slam the door and run to get my mom. She thinks that we were just hallucinating or something. About 10 years later, I bring it up in conversation with my sister. She says that she remembers it clearly and goes on to describe exactly what I saw. I know it was probably some weird brain stuff, but it still freaks me out to this day.
Not really too terribly spooky, but just about the only paranormal thing that's ever happened to me. I have a very close relationship with my grandparents my entire life. Yearly summer vacations with just them and my younger brother are a normal thing for literally the first 20 plus years of my life. Summer 2015, we're about to depart from said yearly vacation, which is at an RV campground that we've been frequenting for at least the last 15 years. As I'm helping Grandpa outside get a couple things together to pack into the RV, I'm hit with this extremely weird, lightheaded, almost euphoric feeling. A voice in my mind says, "This is the last time you'll all be here. WTF okay." This lasts for no more than 5 seconds, and things are normal again. We finish packing and leave. Fast forward, later than fall, I get sucked into a toxic relationship that consumes almost all my time for the following 2.5 years. The year after my brother moves away for university and doesn't visit often, not really having or making time for family stuff for the next several years. In 2019, Grandpa passed away. That feel when some unexplained, melancholic, nostalgic feeling euphoria warned me of my last summer vacation with my grandparents.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Rent a cabin with the gang. Like 12 of us in total, 7 guys, 5 girls. I was with girl 1. Bro 2 was with girl 2. Bro 3 was with girl 3. Bro 4 was with girl 4. Girl 5 had been dating Hercules but cheated on him with Paris and Hessen. I don't know what they saw in her, but it always bothered me that it was an open secret that only Hercules wasn't in on. We didn't treat him the way we should have. French Parisian bro, 5'2", skateboards all day, very whiny and always finding something to complain about. Well, call him Paris. Prussian French bro, 6'1", blonde hair, blue eyes, claims descent from the von Hessen family. Well, call him Hessen. Greek bro, he's a character and a half. 6'4", long hair and thick beard, certified genius and dyslexic, claims descent from some Byzantine dynasty, claims an aunt of his married the king or prince of Greece during World War I, claims to have seen Jesus or visions from God twice. And this was before he smoked weed or did shrooms. 1,000-yard stare, had the nickname Hercules because he would do shit that would need 3 people and wouldn't even break a sweat. Super shy and kind and would go out of his way to help people, and you wouldn't ever think he'd be able to hurt a fly. And for the most part, that's true. He could never hurt an innocent person. But when it comes to people who weren't innocent, he'd go crazy bananas, if you will. One time he catches a guy trying to R a girl in an alley. The man tried to threaten Hercules with a knife. Before the guy finished his threat, Hercules had taken out a metal car hook from his jacket pocket and knocked the guy's teeth out in one punch. We get to the woods and everyone is wearing normal clothing and maybe a hiking stick, not Hercules. He has a cloak, a Phrygian cap, and a handmade walking staff with a dangling cross and holy water. He also had a sword under his cape thing. He always went all out when he got the chance. He looks like a cross between a Christian Gandalf and a giant Greek gnome. Oh, and I almost forgot his mom openly claims to be a witch. Hercules hates witches and witchcraft. Walking to the cabin when we see like 4 people in robes off the trail. They're hiding behind some bushes and watching from a distance. We start speed walking, but we can see them every now and again following us. Hercules screams at them asking if they're okay or needed help. They just smile and laugh at us, and one of them pulls out a sickle. Hercules laughs, pulls out his sword and screams, "Friendly reminder, swords are longer than sickles." When I tell you Hercules isn't afraid of shit, I mean he isn't afraid of jack shit. He's been chased by everything from mountain goats to human traffickers. This guy will take magic mushrooms and watch horror movies. Not even doing this at night scares the guy. Anyway, the 4 guys in robes just back into the woods and we think we scared them off. We get to the cabin and all looks normal. Hercules and the rest of the guys, along with some of the girls on the cabin porch. Hercules normally smokes around 1 to 2 ounces of weed a week, but brought 2 ounces for the weekend since we'd be a group. No matter how much Hercules smokes, he's sober. Night comes around and we're all drunk and high. All of a sudden we hear a bang at the door. We look out the window, but it's pitch black outside. Hercules, backed by me, Hessen and Guy 2, 3, open the door to find a squirrel with its throat cut and a note with a rubber band around it. If there is one way to make Hercules lose his shit, it's animal abuse. It's one thing to hunt, but this was a message. Hercules tries looking at what's on the note, but it's in Latin. Hercules is a polyglot. Hessen also knows a little Latin, but not much. Most of the letter is covered in blood, but they say it looks like a curse or some shit like that. Paris, in the kitchen area with Guy 4 and the girls, is pissing himself while trying to put on this fake tough persona for the girls. Hercules puts back on his gear, now with one of those flashlight headbands, and starts running out of the cabin and at what looked like a shadow that then started running from Hercules. As the guy ran Hercules in picking up rocks and whipping them at the guy with the accuracy of a competition sniper. The robed shadow guy is basically dancing as he runs and gets hit. 3 more robed figures jump out of the bushes and start running at Hercules. Hercules whips a rock at one of the robed figures, hits them in the face, instant KO, pulls out his sword and some tiny shield that only really covers his hand, starts slashing into the dark and ends up cutting off someone's hand, and what looks like an axe falls. When the robed figure curls over their hand, Hercules grabs them by the back of their head and knees them in the face. The one with the sickle actually managed to get their weapon stuck in the small shield, and Hercules just grabbed the guy by the ears and started smashing his head into the guy's face repeatedly, and just lets him go, dropping him like a rag doll. We're all in stunned amazement that this guy single-handedly took down these cultists, or whatever they were, as if he was the Doom guy. Pick-related, sorta looks like his sword, but that's not the same one. Hercules just walks back into the cabin and starts asking if we are okay. Of course, the girls are freaking out and want to leave. Paris is also being a whiny little coward and wants to leave. Not because he thinks that's best, but because that's what the girls want. Most of the guys are trying to convince them to stay at least until the morning. Hercules doesn't really see a difference as he doesn't think they'd come back, but says that if we do leave, we have to stay in a tight group. It's about a 20-minute walk or 15-minute speed walk. We decide to try to make a run for it. We leave as a group all huddled together and Hercules screams into the night, "If I see you following us, I'll fucking kill you where you stand. This is your only warning." We did go to the Royal Mounted Police the next day and told them almost everything. Left out the sword fight, but told them about the robed figures with weapons and the squirrel. They accused us of being high or drunk or whatever came to their mind. We went back to the cabin with the cops and they said to drop it, otherwise they would arrest us. They don't believe us. They think we accidentally burned down the cabin and made up the story the cabin was fine when we left that night. There was no hands or weapons, just splatter and pools or dry blood. The cops don't even acknowledge the blood or the obvious cuts and bruises all over us from running through the woods at night, or any of the evidence that Hercules had been in a fight. MFW, we almost got murdered by some cult in the woods, but our teddy bear friend is still as savage as a real bear. Honestly, I still miss the guy. I haven't heard from him since he found out about his GF and who he thought were his friends.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.